conditioned upon understanding the reality of insan. And reality of insan, Ali Agha, can you quickly draw the same thing that we were using for Laylatul Qadr? That's very helpful in bringing that back again. Yeah, just wipe it. So, what I was telling, that it has got a fundamental impact in understanding the concept of insan and concept of how this manifestation has started to come lower and lower and lower, and understanding that insan is the first and foremost creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the whole rest of the things are made from insan. But when it comes to material world, we see things differently. We see that, as I said, we see that the whole galaxies and universes have been made for billions of years, and then they have gone on into so much of so many physical, chemical, and all sorts of different processes until they have become ready and they have made such an environment that insan can live on it. That's a different thing. That's not the order of the creation. So if we see that, then you will see that first, before any manifestation, that is wujud, which is coming lower to first khalqat, which is aql kul, which is nur, which is haqiqat muhammadiyya, which is insan kamil, or whatever you want to say. What is dropping down one level by level? What is dropping down is the level of wujud. It is wujud is coming down. You cannot, no one can claim that there is anything other than wujud, because wujud is has got such a vast meaning, but which everything else is inside the meaning of wujud. So it is really the wujud is descending down and down. So it comes that when it is in the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the level of before any manifestation, we do not have any name for it. The moment it drops down, when you say drops down, we know that you know what I mean by drops down. The moment is manifested as the first level of under himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes insan. So insan is jari and sari in the whole creation. That's something we have to make an understanding of. That's the problem we have, is we see insan different from, okay, this is insan and this is sun, and that is the moon, and this is the earth, and those are the galaxies. They are, but they are all, I would say, now that today we use the word infitar, they are all infitar. They have called the munfatar from insan. As wujud, that wujud which keeps coming lower and lower is wujud of insan. But of course, in Quran, even if you look at this Surah Baqarah, in where Allah is conversing with Malaika and with Adam, and those dialogue that is very famous that you all know, there Allah says, I want to put a Khalifa, a successor on the earth. That successor on the earth, which is not this earth, is Masaballah, is everywhere. So if insan is the successor of Allah on Masaballah, that means he is everywhere. Everywhere is insan. There is nowhere that there is no insan. Right? Am I increasing the confusion? Or I'm unlocking? Sorry?
How insan is everywhere.
Sorry?
Can you explain more how insan is everywhere?
You're not bound to space, right? Or are you? You're not bound to space when you say where.
No, we are not bound to space, no. That means, what I mean is, the whole, see, the one of the reasons, if you notice, look at this issue, one of the reasons, or probably the most important reason, that when Malaikatullah sort of object to Allah, that why, when you have us, نحن نسبح لك ونقدس لك ونسبح بحمدك, why you have got us that we are doing tasbih? Why are you putting another person, another one? The key to that, when Allah says, I know something that you don't know, what Allah knows and they did not know, it is Allah knows what He has created is jami' awalim. That was the reason. Other creatures of Allah do not have other awalim in them. It was only insan which has got from, you look at from the, you know that what is the lowest level of matter? What is the lowest level of matter?
What we know is electron and proton.
No, even lower than that. They say in philosophy they call it hayulay ula. That's the first level of matter. But that hayula means what? Hayula ula in quantum they call it potentiality. It's only potentiality. Hayula ula does not exist materially outside. Although they call that the first matter, but it's not something that exists outside. It's something which is only potentiality. From that potentiality then matter it starts to come. So insan is everywhere in the whole creation. As you see, when we say insan is jami'e jami'e awalim, that means from the potentiality, from the lowest level of jamad when it starts, we have got jamad, we have got plant, we are haywan, we are malaike, we are insan. So that is where, so that when I say we have to come out of this notion of yesar do gush and head and all of these features that we have, and see into the reality of insan and see this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So that the start of the creation is insan.
So what is the definition then of insan?
Definition of insan. Sorry. Thank you, Al-Yagha. No, that's fine. Let me tell something that maybe in a way that can explain this confusion of how come the way Quran talks that shows that insan is made after Malaika, because Allah is talking to Malaika and says, I want to make. The thing is, as I've said this, I'm sure I've spoken about this before, maybe in for a different context. That is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, is not like us in terms of let's put it this way, when he wants to plan the whole creation, he doesn't sort of forget things and then he starts to remember. So he make the whole creation for insan. So let's put it this way, he makes his first creation first. He doesn't need, it's not like us that we go and make the other things so that they then put it together and then say, oh yes, now I have made this, all this earth and this and that, now is the time to make insan. But remember, in the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he first created the foremost important thing. In the real, it first starts in, exactly, in ilm, which is, they call it Ain Sabit. In Ain Sabit, in the realm of ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has created, basically, maybe even this explanation may not be right, it may be wrong to say, Allah first created insan, then created other things. I would rather tend to think Allah has created everything at once. Kun fayakun for everything. He doesn't need to plan and say, let me see how I can make this, and now I want to make this. Now that I have this, let me make that. You know what I mean? But definitely, there is a principle in philosophy. What is the name of that principle? They say, I've said it. Qaide ashraf and qaide akhas. Ashraf is from top to bottom. Akhas is from bottom to top. Akhas means the lowest. Ashraf is the highest. So Allah creates the biggest, the foremost thing first. And remember, in the concept of manifestation, there is no, it is not possible and practical that something with the lower status be first, because he has to have the ability of manifesting the things all over than himself. So how can it be? For instance, let's say, for the sake of argument, how can we say, if we say the first manifestation was insan kamil, then how can we think that Allah create first and manifest in all the matters to be created, and then from the matters cannot manifest and make the ruh. So it's obvious that ruh first has to be made, then other things to be created from that. So this Qaida Ashraf explains that Allah must have created his foremost important and highest level things first, and then gradually lower and lower and lower. In that, we cannot imagine anything more important than insan. Why? If Allah had any creation more important than us, He would have mentioned it in the Quran. Why would Allah keep that in hiding? And when you read Quran, do you get any of us, even those who may not agree with this, any of you feel that there is a more important creation in the Quran when we read Quran? Do you get any feeling like that? I never get even when I read about Malaika, I never felt that Malaika. I don't think anyone would feel that Malaika are more important than us. So if there was anybody better than us for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He would have mentioned it in Quran. Because He has not mentioned it, we can correctly assume insan is the highest. And of course, higher insan is highest of other insans, humans. So insan kamil would come first, because the rest of human beings should come after. I don't know if it's making sense or not, but I'm trying all my best to put these things together so that to tell that it looks to me otherwise, looks to me illogical. If it was anything other than that, it wouldn't answer any of my questions. If I would have thought that angels were before insan. If it was like that, I would have questioned, wow, why would Allah has created Malaika, then His most important thing? How would Malaika have the ability even to create insan? Because this creation after creation, infitar, these words are not, Allah has not used this word just because now He wanted to be literally a better word. Now I have used so much of khaliq, let me use a different word. Because in the beauty of literature, when we write a literature or whatever we write, we try not to repeat the same word. We try for the sake of beauty to use and employ different words. For Allah is not that. For any of these words that Allah has mentioned, has used, they have got the very precise meaning in its place. When Allah says about infitar, then that's this way of creation. When Allah is talking about khalqat as a whole, that khalqat means measurement, putting limitations to wujud. That's khalqat. When Allah says ibda, there Allah means a different, it's still about creation, but He's addressing different aspects of the creation. So when Allah has used all of these different words in Quran, they putting all of this together, then they give the big picture, the bigger picture, that how is the creation is made. So if I was unable to explain, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me more strength and more.
I want to take more of your time, but because our questions will never end.
How does Allah talk to angel? How does angel talk to Allah? Because if you think about how you said